Welcome to Kognito Key. I'm so thrilled to have you here with us today. We're going to unlock a concept that is literally the foundation of how businesses operate. It's this invisible rule that silently governs every major corporate decision to make sure everything's fair and properly represented. Let's dive right in.
So picture this. You're throwing this massive, super important corporate meeting. You've got the agenda sorted, the coffee is piping hot, the boardroom looks amazing, but barely anyone actually shows up. What happens next? Can the three people just sitting in that room really make sweeping, binding decisions for the whole entire company? I mean, what actually makes a meeting legal? Well, the answer comes down to one single, incredibly powerful word: quorum. A quorum is basically the ultimate test of validity. It's the absolute minimum number of members who absolutely must be present to transact any real business. It's the basic, non-negotiable baseline that has to be met to make sure the meeting's proceedings are actually legally binding. And here's a super critical detail to keep in mind. You can't just send a proxy to make up the numbers. No way. Members have to be present in person. And when we say present in person, we're specifically talking about the people who actually hold the right to vote on whatever's being discussed. Direct physical presence is absolutely mandatory to establish that legal baseline.
All right, let's open up the rulebook and look at the requirements for general meetings.
Now, what's really interesting here is how the required headcount scales directly with the size of a public limited company. It's essentially a tiered system. So if a company has 1,000 members or fewer, you only need 5 people present in person. Not too bad, right? But between 1,001 and 5,000 members, that requirement jumps up to 15 people. And for those massive companies with over 5,000 members, you need at least 30 members physically present in the room to officially get things started. But hey, what if you're looking at a private limited company? Well, the math gets a whole lot simpler. The magic number here is just 2. That's right, literally just 2 members present in person are required to form a quorum for a private company's general meeting. Of course, in corporate law, there's almost always an exception. A company's very own internal rulebook, which is known as its Articles of Association, or AOA, can totally override these baseline minimums. So if a company's AOA decides it wants a larger, stricter quorum than what the Companies Act requires, well, the company has to follow that stricter rule. Moving on to Section 2, let's shift our focus up to the executive level and talk about boardroom rules. So, for the board of directors, the formula changes quite a bit. The quorum here is 1/3 of the total strength of the board, or 2 directors, whichever number happens to be higher. And don't worry about messy math. If you end up with a fraction, you just round it right up to 1. Also, a really important point for today's world. Directors tuning in via video conferencing or other audio-visual modes absolutely count towards hitting that quorum. But wait, what happens if a huge chunk of the board has a conflict of interest on a specific topic? Like, let's say 2/3 of the board are interested parties. Well, corporate law actually provides a really clever loophole for this. In that scenario, if you have just 2 disinterested directors present, they alone can step up, form a valid quorum, and make sure the company can still push forward with crucial decisions. So, the really absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. A quorum isn't just a quick attendance check at the top of the meeting. You can't just sign your name during roll call, grab a cup of coffee, and sneak out the back. To legally transact business, that minimum number of people has to be maintained for the entire duration of the meeting. Okay, let's get into Section 3, the ticking clock. What are the actual consequences when a quorum just isn't met? Imagine the clock starts ticking. Minute 0. The meeting is officially scheduled to kick off. And you wait. Now, for general meetings, you have exactly 30 minutes. If the required quorum isn't met by that 30-minute mark, the meeting is automatically postponed, or adjourned, to the exact same day, time, and place the following week. The board can pick a different time or place if they want, but the default is a direct 1-week delay. But again, there's a major exception here. What if the meeting was specially demanded or called by the members themselves? We call these folks requisitionists. Well, if they went through the trouble of demanding the meeting and then totally failed to show up to form a quorum, it doesn't get postponed. It gets immediately canceled. Poof, gone. Now, for those general meetings that do get pushed to the next week, there are some pretty strict communication rules. The company has to give members a full 3 days prior notice. They can do this by pinging members individually or by placing ads in the newspaper where the registered office is located. And to make sure absolutely everyone is on the same page, those ads have to be published in both English and the local language. And this next part brilliantly illustrates how corporate law prevents things from just being delayed forever. Think about it. What if the adjourned meeting rolls around next week? You wait another 30 minutes and it still lacks a quorum. Well, at that point, a built-in failsafe activates. The law essentially says, okay, whoever actually showed up, those members present will simply become the quorum. And boom, the meeting proceeds.
Now, let's contrast that general meeting failsafe with board meetings, because executive time is treated a little differently. If a board meeting gets adjourned because nobody showed up, and then the adjourned meeting also fails to gather the required numbers, well, there is no failsafe. The meeting just doesn't happen. It stands completely dissolved. Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. You know, these rules, the fractions, the 30-minute waiting periods, they might just seem like really strict math at first glance. But honestly, a quorum isn't just a head count. It's the heartbeat of corporate governance. It's the ultimate safeguard ensuring that decisions are made fairly, transparently, and with the true actual backing of the company's stakeholders.
Thank you so much for joining me today to unlock this incredibly important topic. If you found this explainer helpful and clear, please go ahead and subscribe to Kognito Key right now. Be sure to hit that like button and definitely share this with your colleagues and your network. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next one.